This is CBC Here and Now.
Large area of low pressure bringing flurries to parts of the island and lots of snow to Labrador.
The Prime Minister promised concessions such as cancelling energy projects like Bay du Nord.
Should Newfoundlanders be more concerned today than they were yesterday with this news?
I think they should be.
The federal Conservatives and provincial PCs raised doubts about the approval of Bay du Nord,
as the federal Liberals and NDP form a partnership.
I think it's fair to say this is a natural evolution. We understand that the energy evolution is occurring.
The oil and gas lobby group changes its name and direction.
It'll continue to lobby for fossil fuel projects while also backing green energy.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. The Liberals and the NDP have reached a deal to support Justin Trudeau's minority government through to 2025.
Yeah, and that's raising some questions here at home about the future of a proposed offshore oil project, Bay du Nord. The Prime Minister made the announcement about the Liberal NDP deal earlier today.
Agreement is not about compromising the core beliefs of either of our parties or denying the differences between us. What it is about is making sure that those differences don't stand in the way of delivering for Canadians.
Now, at the news conference, Trudeau predicted the two parties would disagree on some issues, but would find common ground on others, including healthcare, housing, and the environment. Now, the PCs in this province say the federal Liberal NDP alliance puts the future of the Bay du Nord oil project at risk. The proposed oil project is located in the Flemish Pass, about 500 kilometres east of St. John's. Now, Ottawa was expected to release an environmental impact decision last December, but that's been pushed to next month. And it's reportedly caused division within Trudeau's cabinet, with some ministers urging the government to reject the project. Now, with the federal Liberals and NDP working together, the provincial Tories say there's even more doubt the project will get off the ground.
Because we all know the stance of the provincial NDP and the federal NDP when it comes around the oil and gas industry in this province, and the concerns that we've had about them lobbying not to be able to move the industry forward here, and the fact that the Liberal government in Newfoundland and Labrador have not been proactive in lobbying their cousins in Ottawa to ensure that this project moves forward. Now what we're hearing, discussions around some environmental changes that are being requested by the NDP bring concerns here, because people are missing the point that the Bay du Nord project is the most environmentally friendly oil and gas project that we've done in this province and in this country.
From the Confederation Building to the House of Commons, a similar question today from the Conservative MP from Coast of Bays Central Notre Dame.
Newfoundlanders and Labradorians and industry stakeholders have waited a long time in anxious anticipation for a decision on the Bay du Nord energy project. Now with the NDP Liberal marriage, they're more uneasy than ever. Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister promised concessions such as cancelling energy projects like Bay du Nord, in return for the NDP hand in marriage.
We need to look at extensive information prior to deciding whether the Bay du Nord project is likely to cause negative environmental effects. This is why we extended the legislated timeline for the project to provide with more time to review the considerable amount of complex information and make an informed decision.
Now, the provincial NDP has said again today that Bay du Nord doesn't fall in line with federal climate change targets. The NDP says the project should be scrapped, with governments instead focusing on creating jobs in the green energy sector. Meanwhile, the Premier remains hopeful Ottawa will approve the project. In a statement today, Andrew Furey says, "I have enjoyed a strong working relationship with Prime Minister Trudeau, and our governments have collaborated in making great progress for families and individuals in our province and across the country," which, he says, "I look forward to continuing."
An environmental group is speaking out against the Bay du Nord project. A panel of speakers organized by the Sierra Club of Canada is calling on the federal government to reject the offshore oil project. The panelists say offshore oil projects like these have caused climate change, and they say giving a green light to another one off Newfoundland and Labrador shores would be a mistake.
Approving Bay du Nord would put us on a trajectory opposite of where we need to go. It locks us into higher emissions when we need to dramatically reduce them. It is the wrong path. This way of life is unsustainable, and investing in oil and gas means investing in death and destruction.
Well, other panelists called on federal and provincial governments to keep their promises to reduce emissions that cause climate change, something they say requires the federal government to reject the Bay du Nord proposal.
This project is throwing fuel on the climate fire. The Newfoundland and Labrador government promised that we would reduce emissions by 10% over 1990 levels. But instead, we went in the wrong direction, the other direction. We've increased emissions by 16%. Now the provincial government has committed to reduce emissions to net zero by 2050, but we are going full speed in the wrong direction. And a project like Bay du Nord takes us even further away from those commitments.
Well, for a quarter century, it has been known as NOIA, an industry lobby group with a laser focus on oil and gas. But in a sign of the times, NOIA is no more. Terry Roberts reports.
It's a name that anyone linked to the offshore has come to know. The Newfoundland and Labrador Oil and Gas Industries Association, NOIA. But this powerful group, representing nearly 500 companies in the oil and gas supply and service sector, has a new name, Energy NL. And it has a new mandate to advocate for its members across all sectors of the energy industry, stepping with both feet into the renewable revolution.
Today is truly a milestone for our association as we formalize our role in the province's evolving energy supply and service sector.
Energy NL will continue to advocate for its members to help develop the oil and gas industry.
We have the skills, we have the expertise, we have the low carbon resource, so we are not abandoning it.
But in an evolution meant to keep pace with the transition to cleaner forms of energy, Energy NL is broadening its scope. The words oil and gas has been removed from its name. Even its popular Daily Barrel newsletter, again a nod to the oil industry, has been renamed The Conduit.
I think it's fair to say this is a natural evolution. We understand that the energy evolution is occurring. Our membership are already in that space.
The rebrand was launched as uncertainty prevails over the oil and gas sector, with the massive Bay du Nord oil project at the center of a heated debate amid concerns over climate change. Energy NL will continue to push for Bay du Nord approval.
We know that the world needs oil and gas. The demand is continuing to rise. And as long as that demand is there, it should come from a place, the supply should come from a place that has the laser sharp focus on the environment, safety, sustainability that we do have here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
But the organization will lobby equally hard to champion renewable projects like wind, solar, hydro.
If, for instance, Gull Island becomes a project, that is something that we will get involved with to ensure our members have participation here.
It's a remake supported by industry stalwarts and today's leaders, one they hope will position the supply and service sector for many decades to come. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, we're into spring now, and that means we've passed the peak of ice making time. And Canadian Ice Services says that this year's peak ice coverage for the Gulf of St. Lawrence was at about 35.7%. That coincided with the normal climatological peak during the week of March 5th. And this is double last year's, but still below normal, about 41.8% is what the normal is. So that was last year's, and that is this year's. Now, if we take a look at the current ice up against or along the Gulf there, ridge of high pressure to the east, and we've got an area of low pressure. That is causing all of this onshore wind, and that is pushing all of that ice back in. And you can see lots of cold air associated with this one as well. So it does look like we're going to see more ice move in. We need that low to move offshore so we can change that wind to push it out. And it does look like this area of low pressure is going to stick around for a while. It's bringing lots of snow up to parts of Labrador and lots of flurries for the island. I'll have the full forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a 34-year-old man from Carbonear who survived an ATV crash on Sunday is now facing criminal charges. The RCMP responded to a report that a man was driving a machine up and down a residential road at 3 a.m. and an officer actually saw the man crash. The driver was not wearing a helmet. The man was thrown from the vehicle but was not injured and blew twice the legal limit. He's charged with impaired driving, driving without insurance, and not wearing a helmet. Well, there was another COVID briefing today as the health minister tried to clarify who can and can't get a COVID test. He accused unnamed people of misinforming the public. He said, if you're a close contact of a case, the criteria has not changed. Now, if you have a household contact and you don't have symptoms, you can still get a PCR test. If you're a close contact but don't live with someone and you do have symptoms, you can get a PCR test. Now, the health minister reiterated there are no plans to distribute rapid tests more widely like every other province has done, saying if school children have extras, they can share. Here Now's Peter Cowan asked him about that today.
Why is it in order to get a free rapid test, you need to know someone who has a kid in school? Why not make them available to other adults, for example, who may not have those same connections?
We need to use our tests wisely. We follow the guidelines from public health. The discretion around those tests is down to the individuals. For those people who the flowchart says you need a test, a PCR test is available at no cost. I think between those two, we've covered the population.
Well, Eastern Health is putting restrictions in place at some long-term care facilities due to COVID cases. Temporary rules are in place at St. Patrick's Mercy Home and Salvation Army Glenbrook Lodge in St. John's, as well as the Lions Manor Nursing Home in Placentia. Restrictions vary for each location. Residents on the impacted floors or units of those care homes are permitted to have one designated visitor. Eastern Health says the move is temporary to help reduce the spread of the virus. People are asked not to visit any long-term care facility if they feel ill or are symptomatic. Well, if you want to make a great painting, you should make it complicated, but not too complicated. That's the advice from 10-year-old Ahmed Haroon.
Yeah, the young artist is already selling his artwork online, and he's got some motivation. See, there's this gaming laptop that he's hoping to buy with all of his painting profits, but there's also a great deal of encouragement from the arts community.
This one was my first and best-selling painting. There was these trays. My mom told me they look really bare, so you should paint them, and tried to do something on them. Then we got some canvases and then we started. What I like about painting is that it can end up really good and it can end up really bad. And if it ends up bad, you can wash it off and try again. And if it turns out good, you can make more and try to earn some money out of it. My mom said I should totally sell them, and she posted it on Facebook. I got a lot of messages and reviews. They have encouraging things written on them, like you have a good eye for colors and keep it up, and they send me links for like paintings and tutorials, and they say they're hard, but it's capable of doing, and I can do it. Don't just keep adding things that make it too complicated. Make it complicated, but don't make it too complicated. When I sell a painting, I feel happy. I feel rich. Yeah, it's done now. It turned out way better than I actually thought it would. Right? Yeah, it turned out really good. It feels encouraging, and it feels like anyone can do what they put their mind to.
We'll have to admire that confidence that you have, Ahmed. Very good. And thanks to Katie Breen for putting that item together.
Yes, and if you want to see more of Ahmed's art, you can check out his Facebook page, Ahmed's Life in Colors, and that's life spelled with 2 L's, L-L-I-F-E.
A very windy day out there today for most areas. This area of low pressure is going to stick around with us. Some of us will see some relief from the wind. I'll have the full forecast coming up.
It's National Impaired Driving Prevention Week, and the police say there's some things the public can do when they come across drunk drivers that would help them with their investigations. Stay tuned.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Oh, while the island has been contending with some rain and freezing rain, Labrador is getting battered, it seems, with snow. Yeah.
Lots of snow. I mean, yes, spring arrived on Sunday, but certainly does not look like it for parts of Labrador. Let's take a look at this photo from Mary's Harbour. Jess Wall shared this one with me on Twitter. Snow door. They had to dig out earlier this morning. And the good news is the snow is ending for you, but this big area of low pressure bringing lots of snow for coastal areas of Labrador, and that will generally continue as we head through the night tonight. We can see a lot of this cold air dipping. This is in the upper levels. So yesterday we were talking, or we were seeing some warmer air in the upper levels, which is why we saw some freezing rain and rain. Today temperatures, 1-2 degrees, and we're seeing that snow, and that is because of those colder upper levels. Other than that, we're seeing lots of flurry activity along with that open water there. With that colder air, we tend to see some of the snow squalls, and that's definitely what's happening today. Lots of temperatures sitting in and around 0, a degree or two above and a degree or two below 0 for a good chunk of Atlantic Canada. Even up across Labrador, temperatures hovering around -4 for Lab City. That's around where you should be sitting this time of year. And temperatures across most of the island sitting between 0 and -2. This afternoon. So taking a look at what's going on, you can really see that spinning thanks to that area of low pressure. Lots of flurry activity today, some grapple in the mix as well as some flurries, which have been pretty heavy at times. Definitely seeing that on the west coast, but that's showing up pretty well on the satellite today. But winter storm warning still ongoing for coastal areas of Labrador, Makkovik through to Cartwright, Eagle River, all under that winter storm warning. And that's because the snow is generally going to continue as we head through tonight. And you can see that fairly well on the future tracker. Will stay heavy at times tonight. This is going to coincide as well with gusty northerly winds between 80 to 110 kilometers per hour. So we are going to see blowing snow, well-reduced visibilities, making that travel not great through the night tonight. And then we're seeing some onshore flurries again for the south coast. Most of the island will continue to see those flurries as we head through the overnight tonight, which will be potentially heavy at times as well for the west coast. Temperatures sitting under this low, not much is going to change as far as temperatures go. Certainly as we head through the overnight, still looking at those minus single-digit temperatures. It's the winds that you'll note that will be different. Northwesterlies on the west coast, 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, and then they're southwest in that rotation thanks to that area of low pressure in the east. So out of the southwest, about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. Temperatures up across Labrador, except in the southeast, will dip between -8 and -14. Again, those really strong winds along the coast. Now that winter storm warning will stay in effect more than likely for most of tomorrow, and that's because that snow will continue as well. The winds will eventually ease in the east. They are going to stay brisk, though, for you on the west coast, and you're going to continue to see some periods of snow into the afternoon as well. We may see that through central with a few flurries in the mix right across the island, really, as we head into the afternoon hours. So as far as snowfall amounts go, we could pick up, this takes us through to Wednesday night, we could see between 10 to 15 centimeters in some of those higher elevations. You may see even more than that, but it's the significant snow along coastal areas. You could see 50 to 60, 70 centimeters by the time that's all said and done. So tomorrow's forecast, you're looking at your temperatures around 1 to 3 degrees, or 0 to 3 degrees, I should say, for the island. Temperatures up across Labrador as well, staying pretty steady, around 1 degree for Cartwright. Again, those winds, northerlies, 70 to 110 kilometers per hour. The rest of Labrador looking at some sunshine, certainly up through Nain. Your temperature will sit around -8. That's a look at tomorrow's forecast. We'll look ahead when I come back.
It's National Impaired Driving Prevention Week, and I'm here at RNC headquarters, and joining me now is Constable Jason Walsh. Constable Walsh, what's it like when officers respond to a drunk driving accident scene?
Well, anytime that a police officer responds to an impaired driving investigation, it's always a challenge. A big part of the investigation not only is to ensure the safety of a driver who is involved in an accident or even just a traffic stop, but also while we're doing that, we must be attentive to anything that leads us towards an impaired driving investigation. So there's an awful lot going on at the same time, and it's always a challenge for sure.
You know, I sort of look at what the RNC, the RCMP, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, all of the effort poured in education. What do you make of the fact here we are 2022 and we still, hammer away at this message about this is something that can be prevented?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would like to think that by this time in our lives and in society that we're beyond the point where we need to even focus so much attention on impaired driving. However, it still persists as a problem in our society. I've always said that anytime there's even one impaired driver on our roads, that results in a problem for our community. And so it's not only our job to arrest impaired drivers, but it's our job to promote the deterrence of impaired driving violations. In doing that, we're going to decrease the amount of accidents and deaths and injuries on our roadways and trailways.
During the pandemic, I think much has been made of the fact that liquor sales, alcohol sales in the province are actually quite high. There are also increased use of recreational vehicles, ATVs, skidoos, and there's accidents. Part of this week is to remind people we're not just talking about cars, right?
Absolutely. You know, the impaired driving laws in our country indicate that operating a conveyance or a motor vehicle anywhere in Canada is against the law. And that includes waters, trailways, even your own front lawn if you're operating a vehicle impaired. You know, as we now kind of change the seasons, we're moving from snowmobiling to ATVing, and we're going to see more ATVs on our trailways and sometimes on our roadways crossing from trail to trail. And you know, it's important to realize that all impaired driving laws are associated with our country, not just for vehicles, they're also for ATVs, they're for boats, any motorized vehicle.
Yeah, it's interesting though, and I won't get you to react to this, but I've actually heard the phrase here, you know, I've had a little too much to drink, I'm actually going to take the quad, almost a recognition that I'm impaired, too dangerous to take the pickup truck, so I'm going to take another vehicle, but this is still a machine, right?
Absolutely, and it still poses the same risks that it would pose in any other situation. It could be serious injury or death for anybody on our roadways, or on our waterways, or on our trailways.
One last question for you. When police officers are doing their job and they're either stopping people for an enforcement checkpoint, what is it that the police, you know, look for to sort of determine before they actually ask somebody to do a breathalyzer? What are you kind of looking for to sort of make the determination as to whether or not you're dealing with an impaired driver?
Well, all of our officers on patrol services are trained in impaired driving investigation and detection techniques. Some of those include approved drug screening devices, which are the roadside breathalyzer, or approved drug screening equipment, which is an oral swab that can detect cannabis in someone's system as well. So not only are we looking at how the person reacts to us and how they talk to us, we're looking for odors, we're looking for paraphernalias, driving evidence, all those things.
Red eyes and the like.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, I hope that things get safer on our roads and highways, and thanks a lot for the reminders about why this remains an important issue in our province. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Now, Constable Walsh also adds it's helpful to the RNC when people report suspected impaired drivers when they see them, and also that it's important for parents to talk to their children about making safe transportation plans when they go out to parties and other celebrations.
Really felt strongly about the situation and was hoping I could do something to help.
A West Coast artist is selling glass to raise money for the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. More about her suncatcher creation coming up. An artist on the West Coast is using her talents to raise money for the people of Ukraine. Hervé Manuel owns the Glass Station in Rocky Harbor. She makes art out of glass, and she's now selling glass sun catchers as a fundraiser, with 100% of the proceeds going to help Ukraine. She joins us now. So Hervé, can you tell us why you decided to take this on? Where did the idea for the fundraiser come from?
Well, I was hoping to do something, and I wasn't sure exactly how to help, because my heritage is Estonian, and my parents and grandparents face the same situation that the Ukrainians are facing right now, and they actually had to flee their homeland. And, you know, lucky enough, we came to Canada, and this is where myself and my brothers have been raised, and we live here and we have beautiful lives, but there's still so much trauma attached to all of that history. And I really felt strongly about the situation and was hoping I could do something to help.
Can you tell us about the pieces that you came up with, the sun catchers? How do you make them?
Well, I start with a flat sheet of glass and I cut out strips and strips and strips of the colors. So I'm using cobalt blue and marigold or sunflower yellow for the centers of the flower, and cobalt blue for the petals, as a nod to the Ukrainian flag, colors of their flag. And I cut out strips of the blue for the petals, and then I cut out the centers, a clear, and then I add glass powder and crushed glass into the centers to make them yellow. And then I cut these other little pieces of glass to put on top and little wires to attach them so they get melted into the glass when I put them in the kiln. The process takes about 2 hours or so just to get maybe between 20 and 25 ready to go into the kiln in one go. And then the kiln, they're in the kiln for 24 hours. So more or less I make between 20 and 25 flowers every day. I've been doing that for a while, and I'm starting to get more orders, which I'm really pleased about.
What has the reaction been like so far?
People are really happy about it. Some of the better comments are that people have made have been, you know, thank you, we've really wanted to do something, and now we actually have somewhere we can physically, we know we can give you some money, you know, and they get a little token out of it, and also they know it's going somewhere.
Can you give us some of the details? Like, how much are you selling them for, and where is the money going to be going?
Okay, I'm selling them for $50 each, and the money, I've sent $1,000 to the Kiev Bakehouse Bakery, directly to them through a GoFundMe page. So that's $1,000 has gone there. I just sent $4,500 to the Red Cross with direct, you know, the help goes directly to Ukraine. And I'm going to be sending some to animal shelters, to other refugee centers, specifically in aid of Ukrainians.
So you're really kind of spreading it around.
I am. And, you know, as I sell enough and I get a nice little lot of money, then that goes straight out, because obviously they need the money now rather than in 5 months from now. My goal is to sell 1,000 of these flowers.
And if someone wants to order one of them, how can they do it?
We'll have a link on my website to Wildflowers for Ukraine, and you can just follow the link and it'll take you to the site on the website, and you can buy directly from there. You enter your address and your phone number, and then in a few days or however long it takes me to get to your order, I will send out your flowers.
Okay, well, Hervé Manuel, thank you so much for telling us about it, and good luck with it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Take care.
Well, and now to the Ukraine story. President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke with the Pope and addressed the Italian Parliament today as he continues to call for help from the international community, and he warned that Ukraine is on the brink of survival. Zelensky also talked with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau again today, who repeated Canada's pledge to support Ukraine.
Canada, alongside our democratic partners, is helping Ukraine defend itself against authoritarianism. It's the right and necessary thing to do.
In Ukraine, officials say forces have pushed Russian troops out of an important suburb of Kyiv. This prevents Russian forces from encircling the capital and gives the Ukrainian side access to major roads for resupply. However, the assault on Mariupol continues as more than 100,000 people remain trapped in that city. Elsewhere, there are reports the Russian advance has been slowed, even stopped, by lethal hit-and-run attacks by Ukrainian fighters. Well, each week in our series Habitats, host Andy Bullman explores different landscapes in the province, how they're evolving, but in some instances, how they're disappearing.
Yeah, years ago, Newfoundland ponies roamed freely through fields in places like Bay Roberts and Mad Rock. And sadly, the short, sturdy animals are now considered critically endangered.
But a few local organizations are working to bring the breed back.
They were used for hauling wood, they were used for plowing the ground, tilling ground. And then they used to go down the beach with them with get capelin and stuff in that for their ground. But then they used them in the winter hauling the wood too, right? They had to use them hauling wood. But most of the times, once their ground was sod out and they had everything done, well, they just turned out through the gate, they let them out. And they just roamed around wherever there was nothing fenced or ground, wherever they get, and they'd done fine like that, right? But once the laws come in, stop them from roaming, and everything, the town councils, and they banned them from being out loose, so then a lot of people just got rid of them. They had no place to keep them. And so if anybody had no place to keep them, they had to sell them.
What's special about the Newfoundland pony? Like, what's so charming about the breed?
Oh, they're really good with youngsters, and they're strong, exceptionally strong. Like they can carry a full adult, right? And like for working, and they're good temperament. Other than that, like, you know, they kept everything grazed down. Like a lot of this grass now, grassland, is a fire hazard too, right? If you know, like you get all this dry grass, and if something drops a match or a cigarette or anything in it, it's gonna, you know, is a danger. A lot of people don't like to, you know, try to keep that dry grass cut back and stuff.
What ponies are we meeting today? We're meeting 3 ponies?
I got one out there, Rhonda of the Havilon, and one that I got there was Klondike Lady.
How long have you had Newfoundland ponies?
I've had them, well, my father had them before me, so long as I can mind, since I've been a little boy, right? And I mean, I'd say probably the ones that I got there now, I probably was about 5 years old when he bought the foal there, and that's the same breed. We kept the same breed right down through.
And what did the ponies do for your family when you were younger?
Well, we used them. We used to set out ground, and then we used to use them plowing the ground. And one time when we were burning wood, we used to go in the woods. We cut wood, all wood and everything with them. Sometimes they'd get out and they'd be gone with all the horses roam. Then when you wanted to get them, you had to go and get them. It was bigger herds of ponies. They were everywhere. And sometimes they'd even be down in the Mad Rock, down Bay Roberts, down where the walking trails are.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of ponies down there. There'd be, I mean, when the ponies, there was that many ponies, when they go across, run past you, you can feel the ground shake.
Really?
There's so many ponies, yeah. Like when they'd be galloping and past you, it would be just like, probably could be 50, 60, maybe 70 there in the group, right? And they'd be, if they took off running, like, you know, just the sound from them going over the ground was unreal, right?
When did it change? When did people start?
I think when the skidoos and the bikes and that came out, like a lot of people could use the bikes like to pull their plough or whatever and go and get their kelp, get their stuff for the ground. And then once the law come in that they weren't allowed to roam, they had to put them in, keep them barred in, and people had no place to keep them. So then people just start selling them.
How can people learn more? How can people contribute to sort of saving the habitat of the Newfoundland pony?
Just by supporting it, I guess, supporting the Newfoundland ponies, supporting Newfoundland Pony Pals and the Newfoundland Pony Society, and just taking interest in it, I guess.
And where can people come to see the ponies? Like if someone wants to come have an experience, can they?
This is here, and yeah, the pony pasture in Cubits.
Pony pasture in Cubits?
Yep, yes, Salmon Cove pasture, whatever. And you come out to Kurt Road, and you'll just keep coming on, and eventually you'll see it. But you can contact Byron Early Eye.
Yeah.
Or Tammy Weber.
Okay.
And they got a website, right? The Newfoundland Pony Pals got a website for it, so they have all the information on there, I think. Yeah.
Our tour of Southern Labrador's abandoned communities continues with photographer Ed O'Reilly. Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
Patients in this province are participating in a worldwide search for drugs that can help treat COVID-19. The World Health Organization is leading a clinical trial that involves 52 countries and more than 14,000 patients. Some of them are here in this province. Dr. Peter Daly is an infectious disease doctor with Eastern Health. He's involved with the clinical trial. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
So why did you want to get involved and get patients here involved in this big clinical trial?
You know, it's critical in a global public health emergency that we produce high quality scientific evidence to guide our decisions and our policy. And when it comes to new treatments for COVID-19, we're excited that there are a number of new drugs that may be beneficial, but we need to study them in a randomized controlled trial in which high quality scientific design is used such that we produce good quality information and then provide new drugs quickly to people who need them.
So what are the drugs that have been part of this trial?
This study has cycled through different drugs. So we studied remdesivir in many patients until we made conclusions about remdesivir. And now we're into other repurposed drugs that we have already used for other indications that may be beneficial for COVID-19. Current drugs under study are imatinib and infliximab and artesunate.
Okay, so those are some big words, but give me an idea. They're being repurposed. What were they originally designed for, and what are you hoping they might be able to do for COVID?
So any drug treatment for COVID-19 should have one of two benefits. One is to inhibit the virus's replication, or an antiviral type drug. And that's what we see in the new nirmatrelvir, which is Paxlovid. Secondly, new drugs should inhibit the host inflammatory response and therefore protect the host against immune injury. And that's where some of our other new drugs, which have potent anti-inflammatory effects, may be beneficial.
With this virus, patients have been getting a lot more information about potential treatments, for example. Ivermectin is one that has been a favorite of in the U.S., especially amongst far-right groups who've been pushing this despite the fact that it's not approved for COVID-19. How often does that drug come up when you have discussions with patients about treatment options?
Unfortunately, Peter, some patients are subject to anti-science misinformation, which is circulated on social media. Ivermectin is a good example of this. So this is a drug that does not have randomized controlled trial evidence of benefit. And so it's not a drug which is on any international treatment guideline. And therefore, it is not a drug that we would recommend for treatment for COVID-19. So it's very important that we defend good quality scientific information against, let's say, low quality or anti-science misinformation. And there's an agenda in the public and social media that's trying to promote low quality evidence and considering that to be important or influential, when in fact it's not. So those of us that are in science and healthcare, we need to actively promote high quality scientific information to counteract any misinformation.
And when you have those discussions with patients and you present them with that information that this drug, hasn't been proven effective, what sort of responses do you get?
Unfortunately, some patients are firmly convinced based on misinformation. And so our approach to this, and it's the same with vaccine, we know that vaccine is safe and effective, but we still have a small number of patients who refuse to take vaccine. Our approach is always the same. Please consider what information you're consuming. So where scientific information comes from the Public Health Agency of Canada or comes from the CDC in the US or more reliable or peer-reviewed sources, this is good quality scientific information. Information that's propagated by individual rogue physician opinions or weak quality evidence such as case series or observational studies is not to be considered at the same quality as randomized controlled trials. So we try to counteract misinformation by providing high quality scientific information based on randomized controlled trials.
There is the potential to make COVID a lot less deadly by having good quality treatments. A lot of the talk has been about vaccinations and the importance in making COVID less severe. How much of a role do you think that new treatments that are being studied now could reduce the how deadly COVID is for a lot of people?
Well, of course, we'd rather prevent an infection and a disease than treat one. So naturally, the vaccine is the highest priority. For patients who have COVID-19, and especially if they have severe or critical disease requiring admission to hospital or ventilation, these new drugs are life-saving. For instance, dexamethasone is a drug that we have excellent evidence saves lives, as well as a drug called tocilizumab. And we're routinely providing these two drugs to all of our severe and critical COVID-19. So yes, new drug treatments are life-saving, but we'd far rather prevent infection in the first place.
Well, Dr. Peter Daly, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Pick it up. That's the message the city of Dieppe has for pet owners as the snow begins to melt and signs of spring emerge.
Yeah, not Great signs either buried under all that snow, piles of discarded bags, you know the kind, poop bags. The city launched a fresh new social media campaign about keeping spaces cleaner.
Yes, and as you're about to hear, the problem isn't just gross, it also packs an environmental punch.
Well, it's really not just in Dieppe. It's a worldwide, even, with our tri-communities. We've been dealing with this for years and years and trying to educate people more than anything. But right now, I think we're really going to concentrate on the environment, how bad it is, because people don't realize that dog poop and human waste is the same. The thing is that with the water so close with the riverside that is right there, that people don't realize when it rains or anything like that, that all the toxins and all that, they go into the marsh.
These are basically what people are supposed to pick up when they come and walk on our trail. So you grab your bag here, and then after you pick up all your dog waste, or if you have dog waste, and then you would add it into the bag. So this bag here has been changed on Wednesday or Thursday, and there's already about that much in the bag in just 2 days. I think it's basically just laziness. The big problem is mostly in the wintertime. I feel in the wintertime because of the snow, they feel, well, it's on the snow, I don't want to walk in the snow and pick it up, and the next snow will cover it up. So it kind of disappears. But then we get all these surprises in the spring, which is where we're at right now. We have a run. We actually call it the poop run. Our staff is very aware of it. We have a list of all on this trail we have 15, but we have over 40 sites in the city, which we pick up dog waste. And it's unbelievable. In 1 week, in a garbage bag that's this big, can be 30, 40 pounds of waste per week. I think it's just a small population. It's not we have very responsible dog owners. People are very proud of their animals, and which they should be. And yeah, I think we're just talking about a very small population of people, but huge circumstance if they don't pick it up. Huge effects. Yep.
So pick it up.
Pick it up. Please pick it up.
Stoop and scoop.
That's
for
right.
sure. Okay, well, let's look at the long-range forecast. Any melt coming with any surprises that we'll see on the trails?
Yeah, well, the thing is the temperatures are going to be a bit above zero, but we're going to see some snow along with it. So it'll hide. It'll do a little bit of a job of hiding that over the next little bit. Let's take a look at what's going on. That area of low pressure is going to stick with us for a little while. There it is offshore, but we're still seeing some windy conditions. And the reason for that is because that area of high pressure is moving in behind it and it's squeezing all of that air. So the winds are in fact going to pick back up again Thursday morning. Pretty briefly though, as the ridge of high pressure moves in, the winds will eventually ease right along with it. So things will be unsettled through the day on Thursday, but eventually things will clear out as we get into the evening and overnight. So temperatures, again, 1 to 2 degrees right across the board. A little cooler for the northern peninsula. Up across Labrador, you're around seasonal for this time of year. 0 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and -3 in Nain through the day on Thursday. Now, as we head into Thursday night, Friday, that ridge of high pressure is actually going to move north, and we're going to see some unsettled conditions through the day on Friday as well. So increasing cloudless story. Next system moves in, it looks like for the weekend. Bit of a disagreement on this one on just what exactly is going to happen at this point, but it is looking like we're going to see some either snow moving in and then either transition through to rain, maybe even some ice pellets again for parts of the province. But right now it's looking like temperatures for your Friday will sit and hover around 0 to 3 degrees through the afternoon. Late day is when we should see those flurries start, or light snow for the southwest. Eventually through Friday night they'll spread across the island. Up across Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures really not moving too much as we head through Friday. 0 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, -1 in Cartwright, and -5 in Nain. And again, you're going to stay out of this one thanks to that ridge of high pressure moving a little bit further north. We should see lots of sunshine through the day and really over the next couple of days for you. Speaking of the next couple of days for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland, there's your temperatures. See a couple of degrees above zero continuing right through Sunday. But as I mentioned, we could see some of that precipitation change over to rain at some point on Saturday, and same thing into Sunday with temperatures between 2 to 3 degrees. Overnight lows look like they'll dip. But overall, central Newfoundland going to keep you in the snowy part of that on Saturday. By Sunday, that's when you should start to see some of that mixing with your temperatures above zero again, 3 degrees, 4 degrees for western Newfoundland. But it does look like everything for you should stay as snow. Now for Labrador, at least eastern Labrador, looking at flurries through Saturday and Sunday. And then for the west, you're looking at flurries as well, right from Friday through to Sunday, with those temperatures not moving much at all for you. You'll be hovering anywhere from 0 to -3 through the week. Take a look at this photo. Sunny day in Moores Cove, Notre Dame Bay. Joanne shared that shot with us. Certainly looks like spring out there. Lots of sunshine. Guessing that was taken on Saturday. Can't see the wind, but it was definitely on Saturday. Best day of the weekend by far. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Nice shot. Little bits of ice, but not too bad there.
No, the ice yesterday driving back from Central was.
Oh yeah. Was it thick?
Oh, it was
like
a
lot of
lots of ice through the trees. Yeah.
And you did some ice fishing.
Oh,
the weekend.
Yeah. Caught a, what did I catch? A smelt.
Did you say
it was
a
windy.
smelt?
Yeah, just one.
One?
It's okay. I couldn't last out there. It was so cold. That was the problem. But it was nice to get out for sure. That season is definitely ending.
Yep.
Yeah. It's
Especially
always
with
nice
the
to get
sunshine.
out.
It is, yeah.
Wow, that's it for us on this Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone.
See you tomorrow.
Good night.